What's going on, my wellness warriors? Welcome back to the MME YouTube channel, where we're here to help you develop a healthy mind. Hold on, I gotta check my headband. Make sure the mic's attached to keep your body aligned. My name is Tyler Egan, and I will be your wellness mentor and educator for today's video. And today's video is actually going to be part 2 to our last week's video on transforming your emotional understanding. Essentially, it's emotional regulation 101. We're just going over some of the major mental mechanisms behind how we as human beings handle our feelings. And so, long story short, if you watched last week's video, you may actually know this. No, you would. I did say it. After completing the video, I realized the video was like 50 minutes long, and I didn't want to put anybody through that. So what I decided to do was cut the video in half. That way you could watch the first half, digest all that, and come back this week where we'll dive deeper into the rest of the video. Because actually, now that I'm thinking this and saying this out loud, the latter portion of last week's video was a little bit heavier in content, meaning the content we went over was a little bit more like heavier when you look inward at yourself. So yeah, this is gonna be part 2. We're gonna finish with expression and escape, and I think that's about it. If you guys take anything, well, actually, let me say this first. If you haven't watched last week's video yet, you're gonna be missing some context that is gonna be kind of important. So check down below, or there might be a card popping up somewhere here. Go check that video out first. Well, make sure you watch that one first, or some of this may just not make any sense. And yeah, and if you guys take anything from this video, if you took anything from last week's video, please leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you want to see more of, let us know what you learned. Please let us know what you learned. Sometimes as I'm making these videos, I'm sharing information that really speaks to me, and while that's great and all, what I understand may not be what you understand, and I want to hear from you all. I want to hear what information we share that really helps you in your wellness journey, right? So please leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you learned, let us know what you want to see more of. Subscribe to the channel, especially if you want to see more of this content. And if you're feeling really ambitious and you want to take your wellness journey to the next level, just click that notification bell. That way you're notified every single time we put out a new video. With that out of the way, I think that's just about everything. I'm like mentally going through my checklist of things to say. I'm not good at making the YouTube video things. Like, I think there's a criteria that you have to meet to be a YouTuber, and I just want to share information that helped me. So being a YouTuber isn't really something I'm good at, but here we are, we're doing the thing. So I think that's just about everything. If anybody knows what I forgot to mention as a YouTuber, let me know. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now and we'll get into the video. All right, peace out.
So the rope touches my left heel.
With peppers, onions.
Circadian health. More importantly, we're going to be talking about your circadian rhythm. Expression. Expression is essentially just openly sharing what you're feeling. And I don't want to just highlight this as like, you and me having a conversation right now about like, hey, I'm feeling upset right now. And I just like, you mind if I like just vent for a minute? I had a rough day at work. My boss is a dick, and I stubbed my toe and I dropped something on my pinky toe, and it's just like one thing after another, and I just feel defeated and upset. It's not just like that. It's not just openly sharing what we're feeling. That's one way, what feeling. But like practices like journaling is a form of expression. I do things like rope flow, steel mace flow, and that is a form of expression. Art is a form of expression. A coworker of mine, he's such an awesome dude. He's really into music, and he like made up a song the other day for the astrological thing that was happening. It was the Lionsgate portal, because one of the planets are doing something, and so like he shared the song he came up with me with the sick beat and everything like that, and it was cool. So like expression, man, I didn't finish that. Expression isn't just openly sharing through conversation, through therapy, things like that. It is openly sharing what we're feeling in a multitude of ways. Expression can be, physical, it could be mental, whatever it is. It could be journaling, it can be art, it can be exercises. Was one of the ways I learned how to channel and harness my own anger. So expression isn't limited to just communicating back and forth with somebody, although that is probably the most universally understood way of expressing. But there's so many different ways to express emotions. And cheers, by the way. I hope y'all are hydrating, because usually if you're watching these, we're in this for the long haul, because I can talk forever apparently. So when we talk about expression, this is really useful for healthy relationships, whether it's partnerships, friendships, work relationships, being able to work through feelings together is very valuable, especially in any of these relationships where they're tight niche or you have to work closely with somebody. The other thing when it comes to expression is, oh God, it helps with a residual buildup, emotional buildup. Residual buildup, right? So again, my example earlier, I had a rough day at work, my boss is a dick, I stubbed my toe, I dropped something on my other foot and blah, like I just feel defeated. It's like, okay, now you're expressing it, getting it out, you're getting it out of you instead of letting it build up in here. So it allows us to build up in this. But there is a downside to expression that would be something. There's a feeling that's here that I can't put a word to right now, but I would feel like I'm not giving you guys the fullest extent of what we need to understand about expression if I don't tell you this, because there is a downside to it. Because expression or overly expressing one's emotion can, lead to just that. Overexpression can lead to dependency for other people's validation, right? So if you're always telling people everything you're feeling because you don't want it to get stuck in here, then it can lead, I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying it can lead to you seeking validation from somebody else to validate your own feelings when you can simply just validate your own feelings without even expressing it. So overexpression, if you are overly dependent on expression as a form of handling your feelings, then it can lead to, I'm not saying it will, but it can lead to a dependency on being externally validated from the world around you. And the reason this is important to understand is this is an inside out job. Healing, health, wellness is an inside out job. If we are dependent on other people's validation, then we will always need something outside of us to feel whole and complete within us. And I don't know about any of you. If you're still here, I'm assuming we're on the same page. That is the last thing I want. We need other people. We need community. We need loved ones. Not here to deny that. But to be dependent on validation from other people to know what I'm feeling is valid is not something I'm looking for. You can give yourself the validation. So I'm only highlighting this so that we can shine a light on all of the good that comes with expression and the fact that there is, in fact, a downside to it, right? A couple other things I just want to hit on really fast is emotional overload, right? Because now, again, we're overexpressing, maybe dependent on the validation from others, but with that, it can take on a new level of this where we're so dependent on expressing ourselves and expressing back and forth that we are taking on the emotions of other people. I want you to think about that for a minute. Like, you have your own stress, your own blah, your own overwhelmed stuff. We all have the shit we're dealing with. We all have our challenges in life, right? And this can lead to you taking on other people's problems, other people's emotions, other people's feelings, where you then feel like you have to fix their problems, right? Like, drop it in the comments if this resonates with you at all, where you have felt like you had to help somebody fix their problem. Maybe they were just venting, they were just expressing themselves, but you began to feel like you had to fix their problems, and it started to lead to this level of emotional overload, right? And then the last thing is with expression, again, just shining a light on the downsides to this, misinterpretation, which goes hand in hand with what I just shared above, interpretation, right? You just want to express your feelings to somebody, and that somebody, for whatever reason it is, doesn't necessarily matter in this context, right, in this moment, that person feels like they have to fix your problem. And so now you can't even fully express yourself because that person is immediately going into problem-solving mode. It's like, no, hold on, I just want to express myself, that's all. No, I just want to be heard. I just want to be seen. I just want to be loved right now, And again, it kind of all goes hand in hand, because now this misinterpretation is just like, I just want to be seen. This person's not seeing me, and I'm dependent for that validation. So now my emotions aren't validated. And now the expression is kind of like, nah, this all is going to shit, right? Because internally we're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. They're not understanding me. They're trying to fix my problem. I don't want my problem to fix. I can handle it. I just want to express myself right now. So again, expression is fantastic, but the caveat to this is, number one, if somebody doesn't have the capacity to hold space for you, if you're going through like a heavier emotion, a heavier feeling, choose wisely who you express these emotions to, these feelings to, because not everybody has the bandwidth, the capacity, the ability to hold space for really heavy, deep emotions, right? And that's where all of the downside to expression come into play. When we are expressing to people who don't have the ability to handle or hold space for those emotions. There was one other thing I was going to say about that, but I think that's actually good for expression for now. So let's get to the last one, which is number 4, escape. And this one I feel like everyone probably has a good understanding of, so hopefully this doesn't go too much longer. If you guys are taking anything from today's video, please drop a like, drop a comment. And if you want to see more content like this from us, we have a bunch of videos up on our channel already, so please subscribe and whatever, do the thing, the notification bell thing. Yeah, I'm not really good at this YouTube thing. I just like sharing this information because it's helped me a lot. And I want to help you guys on your wellness journey too. So number 4, let's just talk about it. Escape. It's all around us. We have so many different forms of escape. We could do all of the things in the world, like water. I'm escaping from explaining this more because, well, I do need to hydrate. Cheers. Okay, so this, and again, this is actually going to tie together with the suppression a little bit, but avoiding. We are man, that was a really bad G. We are avoiding through distraction. We are avoiding our emotions. We are avoiding our feelings. Avoiding feelings through distraction, right? So, I mean, we have all the phones, the technology, the televisions. We can avoid through that. Substance abuse. Oh my God, that is so predominant. As somebody who had an alcohol problem in his early adulthood, like, I am very familiar with escape, you know? So, hold please, we got the train going by. Substance abuse, overworking, you know, workaholism, I think that's a word, but either way, overworking, overdoing it, like focusing so much on work because you are trying to escape from your feelings, from your emotions, overeating, overindulging in food, right? Working out can be a form of escapism. I'm just throwing some of these out there just because I'm saying these doesn't mean that this applies to you, but like television, right? How often, I see this all the time at the gym, and I'm not trying to say this from a place of judgment, but people will be in the middle of sets and they're just on their phone. You know, I do it sometimes. We're just on our phones. Like, what are you, like, if you're in an awkward situation, you pick up your phone. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, like you're sitting around the dinner table with your family and there's just an awkward silence. So like 3 out of the 7 of you pick up your phones. What are those 3 people doing? Could they be escaping because maybe it's just an uncomfortable feeling? Even better, like you're at the 7 people at the dinner table and you start talking about politics. Mom and uncle get into an argument about this political thing, and then everybody gets quiet, and then the 3 people pick up their phones because it got really awkward really fast. And we are escaping through the phone because it's just an awkward ass feeling. Or you're at the DMV doing something mundane and boring and silly, and that's a topic for a different day, how I feel about the DMV, but you're waiting in this line, and while you're waiting there, you're just like, you pick up the phone, you're scrolling on social media. Like, and how many of you have done this where you're just scrolling, you're like, what the hell am I even doing? Like, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm literally just swiping my thumb through. I'm not watching any content, like, and then, or maybe you close an app, you open another one, you close an app, you open another one. Let me check Instagram, never mind, close Instagram, TikTok, nah, what's going on Facebook? Nah, I don't really care about Facebook. You check the weather, you know, you check your bank account, you know, whatever it is, you just go through, it doesn't even matter. You just start opening apps and closing them and shit, right? Because we are escaping, so we are avoiding the feelings that, through the distraction of our phone, we are avoiding our feelings through the distraction, right? So, now, again, this isn't inherently a bad thing. I really want to highlight this because I feel like there's a lot of this information gets put out there and then it's immediately grabbed a hold of and skewed in a negative light almost right away, right? Escape and suppression are almost immediately viewed as a negative, and they're not always negative. They very much can be, but it doesn't always have to be because it can offer short-term relief. So you're at that dinner table and you pick up your phone and you find a funny meme on Instagram, and now you're chuckling instead of feeling awkward because mom and uncle are arguing about, you know, whatever. So you've got that short-term relief. And maybe you have a deadline coming up at work and you got a million things on your plate and you just need to distract yourself for like an hour because the brain can only handle so much before it'll explode. And when I say explode, I mean just like maybe an emotional outburst or a panic attack or anxiety, right? So we have to recognize that we are human and we have a capacity. We can only handle so much. Of distraction, escape can be useful at times if intentionally used, right? If you're using it as a coping mechanism all the time to avoid your feelings and never process them, it's a different story. But it can be valuable at times. But anyway, we can use escape as a short-term relief. So it has its value, its merit in that case, but it's a matter of what you're doing with it. Now, the downside to this is it can, oh, we got a runaway marker. It can exaggerate emotional distress, right? Because all you're essentially doing is what my marker just did. By utilizing escape is you're just kicking the can down the road. You're just rolling away like my marker did. I'm gonna have to pick that thing up. It can keep rolling all at once, but I'm gonna catch it, you know? So escape, again, while it's valuable, you're gonna have to come back to this, because if not, the escape is going to push the emotions down more, and it's just going to exaggerate the emotional stress that you're experiencing. Right? So if you're under a lot of stress at work, escaping from work for an hour or two to go to the gym, go for a run, is very valuable. It's just a matter of if you're doing it to avoid versus doing it to temporarily push to the side so that you can clear your mind and then come back to it with a clear heart and clear mind to show up as your fullest expression, right? So the thing with escape and escapism, if you will, is identifying that you are using it as an escape rather than a temporary distraction. So I need another, that's the marker, that's the one we need. Okay, so we're gonna grab this. See, told you I was gonna have to come back to it. Identify if you're using it as an escape. Like when I was at the identify escapism. When I was at the climax, the height of my alcohol addiction, I recognized that I was using it to avoid everything. Literally everything that made me feel even slightly uncomfortable. So you have to identify that and then identify the trigger. What's triggering it? Now, again, to come back to my point from earlier, when I was doing a lot of online coaching, online mindset coaching, a lot of the people we worked with would hear this information and they would think about, like, we'll just say there's another person here and I'm telling them this information. They think about me as escapism because I'm talking about my alcohol addiction. They would think about, like, Tyler doesn't want identify trigger. Tyler doesn't want to feel X, Y, Z, whatever it was, right? So they hear this information, they externalize it almost immediately and think about me, right? So that's the mind deflecting from what's actually in here, right? Because they probably recognize that the escapism actually is a pattern of their own, but they're just recognizing it outside of them so that they don't have to look at the issue or the concern inwardly. So the reason I'm mentioning this, and I mentioned it earlier to come back to it, is because that is one of the things the mind does it so damn well, where it will deflect, it'll look outwardly, it will externalize what we just heard and find somebody else who's doing it so that we don't have to look inwardly at what's happening in here. So if you're doing that right now, just notice it. I do it sometimes. I'm out here, I'm out on a pedestal, I set this camera up a little bit lower, so I'm actually beneath you. I'm just kidding. But it starts with identifying the escape and the trigger. If you identify the trigger as something outside of you, that's a fantastic start. But again, look inward. This is an inside out job, y'all. Inside out. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. So, thank you all so much for sticking with me this entire video. I really thought this was gonna be a shorter one, but this is probably like 40 minutes. Anyway, this is what we're doing. 40-minute video. It's just how I roll. It's time I accept that. Thank you so much for tuning in today's video. If you took anything from today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you give a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and you can go ahead, if you're feeling it, if you're ready for it, click the notification bell. That way you're notified every time I put out a video. If you would like to explore working with us one-on-one, there will be a link down below to schedule a discovery call. With that out of the way, I'm done. Peace out.
So the rope touches my left heel.
with peppers, onions,
Circadian health. More importantly, we're going to be talking about your circadian rhythm.